All right, welcome back. We're having a great week. Today we're continuing our BCBA exam practice question series where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our proven study materials, please check out behavioranalyststudy.com. We offer 3 practice exams, a task list study guide, and of course our combo pack. As always, questions, comments, please let us know. We also have a YouTube membership now if you would like to support us further and have access to our Discord channel. Other than that, let's work hard, study hard, get to our questions. Question 1. A BCBA is using a progressive ratio schedule of reinforcement. They set the initial requirement at 2 responses. After 5 successful attempts, the BCBA increases the requirement by 2 and repeats this pattern. What did the BCBA do wrong? The progressive ratio schedule of reinforcement is one of the most misunderstood things I think I teach and I tutor and I talk about with students. When you see progressive ratio schedule of reinforcement, most people's first thoughts are, well, I'll slowly increase the response requirement as the client responds more and more, essentially fading out the reinforcement. And in a way, you are fading the reinforcement and you're looking for the limit. What is the limit of responding that we'll reach with our client? But the very important distinction is when you're using a progressive ratio schedule, you're not fading it dependent on the client's responses. You're just fading it systematically regardless. So, what did the BCBA do wrong here? A, the initial requirement is too low. The initial requirement is 2 responses, one above continuous reinforcement. Definitely not too low, seems fine. B, the number of successful attempts required is too high. Well, if they do it 5 times in a row, that seems like a pretty good time to move on. So, nothing wrong with that. Again, it also doesn't clarify if it's a required amount of attempts. We just know the BCBA decided to increase it at 5 attempts. So nothing wrong there. C, the response requirement should increase independent of the learner's responses. And that's the key here. In a progressive ratio schedule of reinforcement, your response requirement is not tied to the learner or the client's response rate. It's a very important thing to note. If you're using a progressive ratio schedule, you need to systematically schedule when you plan to fade or increase the response requirement. And here, the BCBA is basing their requirement on the successful attempts. It has nothing to do with the learner's responses if they're using a progressive ratio schedule of reinforcement. So, what did the BCBA do wrong? Essentially, they tied when they're fading the reinforcement out to the learner's successful attempts. Instead, they need to fade their reinforcement out on a systematic schedule independent of successful attempts. So the answer here is C. The response requirement should increase independent of the learner's responses. Which of the following answer choices is not true of learning and teaching self-management skills? Another tricky area for many people. I believe a lot of people don't spend enough time on this area of self-management and self-monitoring and self-evaluation. It's a very important area with a lot of good techniques you can use for your clients. Self-management is extremely effective at generalization, at maintenance, at fostering independence. So the question is asking about self-management, but specifically, what is not true of self-management? Meaning 3 of these will be true of learning and teaching self-management, and 1 won't. So let's find the one that isn't. A small repertoire of self-management skills can control many behaviors. Yes, one major advantage of self-management is if you teach something as simple as a routine or a calendar, you can take that simple routine or calendar and generalize it to so many other behaviors. Self-management is such a great skill, and it doesn't require a lot of skill from the learner. B, self-management can promote generalization and maintenance of behavior change. Absolutely, one of the biggest benefits of teaching self-management. C, self-management can influence behaviors that cannot be targeted by other individuals. Yes. One advantage of self-management is it can also work on things that are maybe private. If only we know what's going on inside of us, our thoughts, our feelings, these type of things. Outside observers, RBTs, BCBAs, therapists, teachers, parents, they don't know what's going on inside. So very often we miss behaviors that are very impactful in someone's life. If we teach self-management and we teach somebody the ability to manage their own behaviors, well, they know what's going on inside of them. they have a much better chance at doing that. A, B, and C all look like advantages. What about, or things that are true? What about D? Self-management often overlooks instances of behavior observed by others. It's actually the reverse, right? Because we just talked about in C. Typically, self-management will identify behaviors that is overlooked by others. Okay, so it's actually reversed. The wording is very tricky here. Self-management often overlooks instances of behavior observed by others. In reality, self-management often identifies instances of behavior overlooked by others. So kind of a tricky question there. What is not true? A is true, B is true, C is true, D is not true. You have to watch the wording here and read very carefully. Self-management actually identifies behavior which are often overlooked by others. The functional analysis performed to determine the function of elopement behavior. The latency of elopement was 100 seconds in the control condition, an average of 65 seconds in the tangible condition, an average of 20 seconds in the attention condition, and an average of 25 seconds in the demand condition. What is the hypothesized function? Not the easiest question in the world. It's a little tricky. There's a lot happening. First, we are trying to determine the function. We're looking at a functional analysis for elopement. So think about elopement. Elopement occurs when someone tries to get away, right? They're running away, they're escaping, that sort of thing. If we're looking at the latency of elopement, then we're looking at the time from the presentation of the SD to when the elopement starts. So if a SD is causing elopement, we expect that latency to be very short. If we look at the control condition, latency of elopement was 100 seconds. That condition is not really evoking this elopement behavior, right? If it's taking over almost 2 minutes to elope, it doesn't really seem like the control condition is evoking this elopement behavior. Same thing with the tangible condition, even a minute, right? Because if we compare it to the attention and demand condition where elopement is happening on average very rapidly, we would say, or we would hypothesize that most likely the function of elopement is either attention or escape. Because since the averages are so close, if you can picture it on a graph, these two data paths would most likely overlap, the attention condition and the demand condition. And if you can't visualize that, draw it out. Okay, draw out this graph, practice that. Draw out this graph, and you will see how the data paths of attention and demand overlap. And if they're overlapping, it's indicating some sort of dual function. So we will hypothesize that the function is not tangible because it's quite a long latency for elopement. It is escape, but it is not necessarily just escape. It's actually escape and attention. Because again, if we look at these data paths, they're going to intersect at some point and overlap. So what are we hypothesizing the function as? Escape and attention. Not the easiest question in the world. Make sure the key when you're doing questions is to not do as many questions as you can. Is to do a single question, get it right, and if you get it wrong, review. That's how you get better at the exam. So take your time, make sure you understand this one, and then move on. A catering company is looking to expand its business to bigger functions with more people. They will need to provide more food in a limited amount of time if they wish to achieve this goal. What type of behavior training would be ideal to use to teach the staff? You have to pay attention to the words they use when asking their questions. Sometimes it's going to say what will be best, what might you prefer, what will be worst. If we're looking for ideal, then we have an ideal scenario, right? What will be the absolute best, all things aside, the best behavior training method to use to teach the staff? Forward, backwards, total task, or behavior chain with a limited hold. Well, let's look at our example. We have a catering company who's going to bigger functions with more people. They have to provide more food in a limited amount of time. It's kind of a giveaway. But if they need to provide all this food but have a limited amount of time to do it, then you're going to probably want to teach the skills within that time frame. And remember, this is ideal. So ideally, that's what you want to do, right? It might not be possible, but we're not worried about possible right now. We're worried about ideal. If we can teach a behavior chain with a limited hold, that is going to help us accomplish our goal the quickest. Forward, backwards, and total task might be better. Total task might be the play here. They might already know most of the skills, but total task in this answer choice does not have a limited hold. If we have this chain we need to complete with a limited amount of time, then we need to teach that chain with a limited hold. That would be ideal. So, best answer here is behavior chain with a limited hold. We satisfy the chain and the limited amount of time requirement. An AB reversal design indicates a functional relation between an independent variable and a dependent variable. What has this experimental design revealed? More of a heady, kind of a technical question, all right? Not necessarily applied, but kind of testing your knowledge and fluency here. First off, what has this experimental design revealed? The experimental design in question is a reversal, an AB. Okay, so it can indicate a functional relation pretty strongly, right? And it indicated a functional relation between an independent variable and a dependent variable, meaning some sort of intervention has some sort of control over a behavior. What is it revealed, right? A, the independent variable has a causal relationship with the dependent variable. What is the difference between a functional relation and a causal relation? A causal relation says this independent variable is the reason and the only reason this behavior occurred. A functional relation says, yes, the partial reason or a reason for this behavior occurring is the independent variable, but there could be many other reasons why. A causal relationship is much stronger than just a simple functional relation. B, the dependent variable operates in a predictable way in the presence of the dependent variable. Yes, if we have a functional relation, we can predictably say how that dependent variable is going to operate. We're not saying the independent variable is the only thing controlling it. We're not saying there's not other factors at play. We're not saying it's always going to happen. We can just say we can predict with relative certainty how that DV is going to act. C, the independent variable has no relation to the dependent variable. Of course, that is false. We have a functional relation. And then D, all extraneous variables were controlled for. Can you ever control for every extraneous variable? Can't. Absolutely not. There's no way. So this experimental design has revealed what? Well, it's revealed that the dependent variable operates in a predictable way in the presence of the independent variable. Lionel always asks his dad for cookies before dinner. Finally, his dad tells Lionel that he will lose dessert for a week if he asks for cookies before dinner. Lionel now goes to his mom or grandma and asks for cookies before dinner. The dad has become a what relative to getting cookies before dinner. So I guess previously, Lionel will go to his dad. Maybe in the past, his dad gave him cookies before dinner, and now the behavior's out of control. So his dad has had enough. He says, if you ask me for cookies, you will lose dessert. That is our contingency, right? If you do this, I will take away your dessert. Okay, so he's threatening, basically, negative punishment. So Lionel instead, as behavior happens, goes to where reinforcement might be available with mom or grandma. What does the dad become? What is he functioning as? A, an SD for reinforcement. Is Lionel's dad signaling reinforcement? No, absolutely not. Lionel has stopped going there because reinforcement is no longer available. B, an S delta for reinforcement. Yes, Lionel's dad is no longer signaling reinforcement. He's actually an S delta, meaning he's signaling reinforcement is not available here. C, S delta for punishment. Well, Lionel's dad is actually close to becoming an SD for punishment. If Lionel's dad follows through, provides the punishment, and the punishment is effective, Lionel's dad is now an SD for punishment and an S delta for reinforcement. D, none of the above. No, Lionel's dad is an S delta for reinforcement. Lionel's dad is indicating reinforcement is not available here. The United States curling team is preparing for the next Winter Olympics. The goal in curling is to get their pucks as close to the center as possible by sliding them across the ice. What would be the most effective way to shape this behavior? All right, go check out our Shaping Let's Learn ABA video. I think that was really well done and has a complete breakdown of what shaping is. And the shaping is very understood, I would say, generally. The thing that gives people trouble is across and within topographies. With across topographies, remember, you're trying to change actual aspects of how the behavior is being done, right? So if I was shaping across topographies with the curling team, I would be trying to change how they're sliding the puck, right? I would be trying to change all their different movements within how they're shooting this puck. Okay. We're not necessarily trying to do that though. All we're trying to do is really get this puck closer to the center. So the topography seems okay. We just need to go within that topography. And we're shaping a dimension inside that topography, which would be what? Well, we're going to shape across topographies? Not necessarily. We're not trying to change the overall behavior here, right? The topography is fine. We just need to dial it in. So if we shape within topographies targeting magnitude, now we have our topography, and we're trying to get the puck closer and closer. So we're targeting the magnitude or the closeness of the puck. We're not targeting the amount of time or responses. What we're trying to do is shape within the topography of shooting the puck in order to make it get closer and reduce the magnitude of the puck to the center. So what would be the most effective way to shape this behavior? Well, within topographies, targeting magnitude. Dwight is an excellent math student, but struggles with certain equations and some word problems. His math teacher wants to help Dwight by targeting how he thinks about these specific problems. What is the issue here? Obviously, immediate red flag, targeting thinking. Okay, we were not targeting thinking for many reasons. It's unobservable, it's unmeasurable, it's private. So we need to explain to this math teacher, if we were on the case, what's the issue? A, thinking is not a behavior. Well, thinking is absolutely a behavior, all right? It's just a private behavior. We can't observe it, making it very difficult to measure. B, thinking is an overt behavior. Overt is synonymous with public. Covert is synonymous with private. Thinking is a covert behavior. C, thinking is a private event. Yes, we're not going to try to target this private event. Can't observe it, can't really measure it, gonna be difficult to change. And then D, the math teacher does not have the competency to target this behavior. Sure, she does, right? She's a math teacher teaching this math student. The problem is thinking is a private event. It's going to be very difficult for the teacher to write a good goal, to measure that goal, observe that goal, and really change this behavior. So we need to try to find something that's public, observable, and measurable. Fantastic. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. Join, like, subscribe, spread the word. Have a great Thanksgiving. As always, work hard, study hard. See you soon.